Okay, so going off of yesterday, we need to make sure that we figure out where our lowlights and our highlights are going to be off of our paper, right? I'm going off of mine because mine is John Lennon, so I always want to make sure that I keep my reference photo as close by to my drawing as possible. So if you didn't get a chance to watch the entirety of the video, I did go in a little bit more and focus on shading. So some of you guys are going to see from yesterday where we ended is that I was drawing that line around the mouth. And then it was looking really weird. And so what I did is I went in and I shaded the area that's going to be your low light. And then you start to see the actual objects. But the line follows around the nose, up around. It's one continuous line. And then it's like, ooh, that looks weird, Miss Phillips. Like, I don't really like that. Just shade it in a little bit. If you want to shade in the area around where you're seeing your dark and your highlights and your lowlights, you can go ahead and do that. Now remember, you guys have different photos than I do. The techniques I'm teaching you on this photo can help you in continuation of your photo. So if you decided you wanted to start with the eye or you wanted to focus more on the hair, please feel free to do that. That is totally fine. If you want to continue doing something that's not following along directly with mine, I want this video just to be there so you guys can watch it. Thank you, Marixa. Thank you, guys. By the end of today. Wednesday should be posted by the end of today. Okay, so I will be marking it in absent probably during fourth period. So try to post it around that time. If not, I'll go back after 7th period. Or if you post it late, please let me know in an email and I'll go back and adjust it in Aries. But 4th period, I will be posting late absences for no work on Wednesday. Okay, sorry, I got off task. So I've started to indicate basically where I want to go from here. I want to kind of go back up and focus maybe today on the hair. Let me ask you, by just a show of hands, no response, raise your hand if you want me to start with the eyes today or the hair. So eyes, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, hair, raise your hand. Okay, oh wow, let's tie. Okay. Let's start with the eyes today. I'll be honest, I'm not great with eyes. That's one thing I love about this type of work is that you don't have to do the detail of the eye because the eye is actually basically just kind of blacked out. So I'll start with the harder one. It's going to be the right side of the eye. So I'm going to just go ahead and draw in a circle to represent his glasses over here on the left. So I'm going to just do, as best of my ability, I'm going to do a circle to the best of my ability, just to indicate where my glasses are going to be. I'll just go ahead and do a circle over here as well. Doesn't have to be perfect. Actually, my circle needs to be a little bit bigger. But this is basically not the outside of the eye, but the actual rim of his glasses. Now, because I want to know where a guide is, basically where I'm going to need to put some stuff. I feel like my glasses are too small. I think I should make them a little bit bigger. Okay, so I'm going to focus on basically the pupil of the eye first is where I'm going to start personally. If you want to start in another location, that's totally fine. But I'm going to really kind of focus on just the eyeball. Now, looking at the line right here, is my eyeball above that line or below that line? It looks like it's slightly below, like the start of it is a little bit above it. And then below it. And then the highlight is basically the crease above it. And then another crease above that. So I'm going to go in and really focus on laying out the shadow part of underneath his eye. And that goes up into basically the rest of the shadow work. So it looks really weird because you're like, whoa, that looks really weird, Miss Phillips. I don't really get where that's coming from. Focus for me. And then I look over here to where his nose is at, and I notice that underneath on the cheek area is a big area of highlight. So the highlight starts basically where the eye is. So I'm going to go down. And then if I want to make things a little bit clearer, I can just go in and shade where I see some stuff to give me a little bit of guidance, because I have so many lines on there right now, I'm getting a little confused. So this little line right here is basically focusing on his eye right here. It's a little bit too much, so I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller because his pupil is pretty small. So the lighter that you draw, the easier it's going to be to go in and correct things that you need to. I'm going to go in and I'm going to start shading into the eye line, because that's where I see his shadow over here. And then I'm going to go back in, shade in a little bit more. And when you go in there with the Sharpie, it's really going to pop. Might be a little weird to start, but the more you shade, the easier it's going to be. So now I'm thinking to myself, I don't really know how to get the rim of the glasses. So if I want to go in and really darken the line of the glasses, then I'll have a stronger indicator of where my lowlights and highlights are going to be. This part's going to be a little tricky and a little scary because of the fact that I've got a lot of lowlights in here. So I'm going to create the rim of the glasses using my shadow work all the way up to it. It's going to look a little bit of a blobby mess. That's okay. And then when you're feeling comfortable with where you place things, go in and just add a little bit darker highlights. Because you're going to go in with a Sharpie and really clean this up later. But you want to make sure that you're keeping the rim of the glasses as wide as you can. And you're going to color up to the rim if you have glasses. If you don't, then you're going to ignore that. But leaving an area of blank, clear white around it is going to get that shine of your glasses. So you're going to want to go all the way through and outline the rim. Since I epically failed on this, I do apologize. I'm going to start over here without the glasses so we can kind of focus, because a lot of you guys I don't think have glasses, so I don't know why I'm talking about it. There's probably no point in that. So like I said, a lot of your guys' eyes are going to look and appear to be basically just little black areas. And it could look a little creepy, or it could be something similar to this, to where you're not giving the detail of the outside of the eye. You might just get like the upper edge along with the pupil. Here, let me get a little closer. So it might not be a complete eye. It might just be a pupil. You're not going to get a lot of detail in the eye. Now this picture here has a lot of direct light source to the front of it. So you're going to be able to get a little bit more detail of the edge of the eye. Now the direct light source for this one was an angle coming in this way. Instead of being front on, it's a little bit more because you can tell where his low light is on this side. So he's not going to get a lot of detail in the eye. So like I started here, it's a kind of a mess. It's much more difficult. But I want to erase his glasses over here so I can show you what I would basically do if the person's not wearing glasses. I think that would be much more appropriate for you guys. That will help you guys out. All right. Apologize. So let me just go back and read the chat, because I epically failed on the chat. All right. Yeah, it's my bad. Okay. So what we're going to be focusing on basically here is really just doing the eye. So by show of hands, if you could raise your hand to let me see who has a lot of detail in your eye. Raise your hand. Okay. Some of you guys do have a lot of detail in it. Okay. So I'll go back and refer to this for you guys for the detail of the eye. So when you're working on the eye, you're going to work on just the edges of the eye and creating a line and leaving that really stark contrast between the whites of the eye and the inside. So you might be able to see a pupil, you might be able to see some color, but you'll want to black the entire iris of the eye out completely. Ooh, that made it look like he had a iris. But you're going to want to go in and black it out completely. And then you're going to want to create a line along the edge, right? Along with the pupil there. And you're just going to leave it basically blank like that. So the eye basically would look very similar to this. Let me get a darker color. So you're going to have basically the edge of the eye, and maybe go back in a little bit for then the pupil of the eye, depending on how hooded the eye is, because you know how sometimes the eye can be somewhat hooded. So it's not going to give you tons and tons of detail. And the iris of the eye, when you're looking at the eyeball, the iris of the eye, when you're looking at the eye, actually is not going to be something similar to this, to where you're going to see all of it in one eye. It's going to go a little bit over the hood of the eye and a little bit underneath it. But you're going to go in and color in the whole entire thing in black. You're not going to add any detail or any color variation. It's just going to be black and white. So you might say something similar to this here, right? To where you got the outside edge along with the pupil and a little bit of detail. So for this one, before we leave class today, I'm going to focus on the fact that I don't have tons of detail in my eye. But you might have to go in and be very strategic where you place basically the eye. So we know that the eye, if this line was drawn straight, like it should be, the eyeball goes straight through the middle of it, right? So where your guiding line is here, that's where you're going to draw the outside edge of the line. Now I got lucky with his because I don't have a lot of detail where the eye is, right? So I'm literally just going to draw basically a really simplistic shape that's going to go up into his eyebrow. So this curve kind of goes here, but then I have the glasses, but I'll just go back to that later. It's going to go into the brow, which goes into his hair. And then this comes down into the curve of his brow. And that you're thinking, wow, that looks like a weird eyeball, Miss Phillips. But when you go back in and you color it, or you just shade it in, it looks a little bit different. Because that's what you're really doing, is you're creating these shapes that where you go in, it's going to give you kind of an idea. It might need to go in just a little bit more. But he's got such a bright source coming this way. And it does kind of go down towards a little bit towards the edge of his nose. So it might not have any detail at all. Mine doesn't. Because when you look at it, I might have a little bit of a swoosh there. It might come up just a little bit. But there really is not a lot of detail. See where the little line I drew there is kind of like a line that goes back here. It's not super large amount of detail. But that's okay, because when we pop some black, strong blacks on this, it's going to really pop a lot. So once we start feeling more comfortable later on, then we'll go back in and shade in with our pencil a little bit more if we want to. But really this line goes a little bit further down, which then starts to give you kind of a little bit of the outline of his nose a little bit, right? So if you have glasses like me, you can go back in and draw the outline of the glasses like I was doing here, and really just do two double lines and leave the inside of the glasses completely blank if your character or your icon is wearing glasses. But that's where we'll stop today. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will be in office hours today at 2 if you need anything from me. Yeah. So, one second.